We're watching a manufacturing job earthquake right now, and it's splitting the country into winners and losers in real time. Hey, I'm your host at Market Pulse Report, and what I'm about to show you happened once before, in the 1980s. Back then, America lost 8 million manufacturing jobs in a single decade. Entire regions collapsed. Communities never recovered. But here's what's different about 2025. The jobs aren't leaving the country. They're being forced to relocate within America, and the wage consequences are dramatic. Let me break down exactly where these jobs are moving, why tariffs are creating this shift, and what it means for inflation, housing costs, and your paycheck. The 1980s echo, what you need to remember. In the early 1980s, manufacturing didn't just decline, it collapsed. We're talking about the Rust Belt, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo. Steel mills shut down, auto plants closed, entire supply chains evaporated. By 1985, unemployment in some manufacturing hubs hit 15%. Homes lost value, population fled. 30 years later, many of those regions still haven't recovered. But that crisis had a specific cause: globalization. Companies chased cheap labor overseas. China was opening up. Mexico was an option. Transportation and communication costs were falling. The decision was straightforward: move production to where labor is cheapest. What's happening in 2025 is fundamentally different, and it's because of tariffs. The tariff trigger: why jobs are moving, not disappearing. Here's the mechanism. When tariffs spike on imported goods, manufacturers face a choice. They can absorb higher costs, shrinking margins. They can raise prices, shrinking sales. Or they can relocate production closer to their largest market, the United States. Right now, that's exactly what's happening. Companies aren't moving to Indonesia or Vietnam like they did in the 80s. They're moving to Mexico, nearshoring to Central America, and this is the key part: they're relocating within the U.S. itself, from high tariff-sensitive regions to zones with lower input costs and closer supply chains. We're seeing three simultaneous movements. 1. Reshoring, bringing production back to America from China and East Asia. 2. Nearshoring, moving to Mexico and Central America to stay tariff-advantaged. 3. Domestic redistribution, moving jobs within the U.S. from coastal high-cost regions to interior states with lower operating costs. The wage impact is massive, and it's not what you'd expect. Let's get specific. I'm talking about real data from job postings, manufacturing permits, and corporate announcements in late 2024 and early 2025. Texas is becoming a manufacturing magnet. We're seeing semiconductor assembly, automotive components, and electronics manufacturing all clustering in the Dallas, Austin, San Antonio corridor. Why? Lower state taxes, cheaper real estate, and critically, easier access to the Mexican supply chain. Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina are experiencing a similar boom. Nissan announced major expansions. BMW is investing billions. These aren't new factories in their traditional locations. They're redistributing capacity from the Northeast and Midwest. Indiana and Ohio, the old heartlands, are actually gaining some jobs, but not the high-wage union jobs that left in the 80s. These are new, often non-union operations focused on EV batteries and components. Wages are 20 to 30% lower than the union roles they're replacing. Meanwhile, regions like Western Pennsylvania and Northern Michigan are seeing secondary manufacturing decline, the suppliers that feed the major plants. As those plants shutter or shrink, the entire ecosystem contracts. Mexico, though. Mexico is the real winner. Ciudad Juarez, Monterrey, and industrial zones near the border are absolutely booming. We're talking about the largest manufacturing expansion in Mexico in over a decade. Companies can build factories there, get tariff advantages through USMCA, and maintain supply chain proximity. The wage story: why this matters to inflation. Here's where this connects to inflation and your daily life. In the 1980s, when jobs left America entirely, it hollowed out wages globally. The supply of skilled manufacturing workers flooded into lower-wage countries. Global wages compressed downward. In 2025, it's different. Jobs are relocating to lower-cost American regions and to Mexico, but they're not disappearing. That means wages in booming tariff arbitrage regions like Texas and Tennessee are rising, but not to traditional union manufacturing levels. A job that paid $28 an hour with benefits in Detroit now pays $19 an hour without union protection in North Carolina. Wages in declining regions like Pittsburgh and Buffalo aren't rising, they're stagnating. Companies aren't competing for workers anymore. Population decline is accelerating. Home prices are decoupling from national trends. Mexico's wages are rising significantly. Good for Mexican workers, but it reduces the cost advantage that made the move attractive in the first place. Some economists predict this cycle will eventually push some manufacturing back to the US or to different countries entirely. Here's the inflation implication. Manufacturing cost reductions from tariff-driven nearshoring won't be as large as they would be from pure globalization, but they'll be real. We might see 1 to 2% of deflationary pressure from reshoring efficiency gains, offset by tariffs themselves adding 2 to 4% inflation. It's a wash, maybe slightly inflationary. Housing, the hidden consequence. This manufacturing shift is already reshaping housing markets in 2025. Texas and Tennessee are experiencing population inflows. Home prices are climbing 6 to 8% annually in manufacturing hubs. Inventory is tight. If you're working in manufacturing, these regions offer job security and rising nominal wages, but housing affordability is deteriorating fast. Meanwhile, Rust Belt cities are experiencing the opposite. Pittsburgh, which has diversified into healthcare and tech, is stable, but secondary manufacturing towns in Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, population is emigrating. Home prices are flat or declining. This is creating a two-tier America. Manufacturing boom towns with unaffordable housing and manufacturing decline zones with depressed real estate. The 1980s difference. Why this won't be another Rust Belt. Here's the crucial distinction from the 1980s. Back then, entire regional economies were built on one industry. Pittsburgh was steel, Detroit was autos. When those industries left, communities collapsed. In 2025, manufacturing is diversifying within regions. You're not seeing one giant plant close, you're seeing incremental shifts across multiple sectors. Tech, healthcare, logistics, and services are growing alongside reshored and relocated manufacturing. Also, remote work is enabling people in declining manufacturing regions to work for companies elsewhere. It's not compensating fully, but it's providing options that didn't exist in 1985. Does this mean Rust Belt regions are safe? No. Decline will continue in manufacturing-dependent smaller cities, but metropolitan areas that have diversified are proving resilient in ways they weren't before. What's next? 2025 and beyond. Watch these indicators. 1. Mexican labor cost inflation. If wages in border manufacturing zones climb another 10 to 15% this year, it shortens the nearshoring window. Some production might actually come back to the US or move to Central America. 2. Additional tariff announcements. Trump administration signaling suggests more tariffs on semiconductors, chemicals, and steel through 2025. Each wave will trigger new relocation waves. 3. Regional unemployment divergence. By mid-2025, we should see manufacturing unemployment under 3% in Texas, Tennessee, and the Carolinas, while Rust Belt regions hover above 5%. 4. Inflation data. Watch whether tariff-driven nearshoring actually reduces input costs enough to offset tariff premiums. This is your inflation forecast. The bottom line, we're not experiencing a 1980s manufacturing exodus. We're experiencing a 2025 manufacturing redistribution, reshoring, nearshoring, and domestic relocation all simultaneously. Jobs are moving from coastal, union-heavy regions to lower-cost interior states and Mexico. Wages are declining in real terms for manufacturing workers overall, lower in new locations, lost entirely in old ones. Housing markets are splitting, booms in destination regions, stagnation in legacy manufacturing zones. Inflation impacts are real but partially offsetting, tariffs pushing prices up, nearshoring efficiency pushing them down. If you're in manufacturing, the region you're in matters more in 2025 than it has in decades. If you're tracking inflation and housing, this shift is a primary driver you need.